Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on the world of cyber attacks. We're going to break down everything from the really clever cons that trick us into giving up our secrets, all the way to the malicious code that's actually designed to cause chaos. So let me just kick things off with a question for you. What do you think is more vulnerable? Is it your password or is it your trust? Now that's kind of a trick question, because what we're about to see is that the most advanced attacks, well, they don't target your computer first. They target you. And that leads us perfectly into our first section, the art of the con. This is all about exploiting human nature. Because, before a hacker even thinks about writing a line of code, they're probably thinking about how to manipulate a person. And this technique, it has a name, social engineering. And just look at the definition. The key words here are human error. This isn't about some genius coder breaking down a digital firewall. Nope. It's about breaking down a person's natural skepticism to get their hands on valuable information. You've probably run into some of these tactics yourself. Take phishing, for example. It's really just a fancy word for phishing over the phone. It's that urgent, maybe even panicked call from someone pretending to be from your bank or from tech support. And then there's smishing. Same exact idea, but it comes through as a text message. You know the one, that text saying there's an issue with your package delivery, click here. That's a classic smishing attempt, right there. Attackers can get really specific, too. There's something called whaling, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a type of phishing that goes after the biggest fish in the company, the executives. The emails are super personalized, and they're designed to trick a CEO into, say, making a massive wire transfer. So, when you put it all together, phishing, smishing, whaling, they all fall under this big umbrella of phishing. It's just the general term for using any kind of digital message to trick you into either handing over your data or, even worse, getting you to install something nasty on your device. But hey, the con isn't always digital. Sometimes it's surprisingly low-tech. Attackers will use something called USB baiting, where they literally just drop an infected USB drive in a company parking lot, hoping someone's curiosity gets the best of them. Or they'll set up a watering hole attack, which means they infect a website they know their targets love to visit. And sometimes they go really old school and use physical impersonation, just dressing up like a delivery guy to walk right past security. Okay, so let's think about the end game here. A successful con, whether it's a phishing email or a baited USB stick, it usually has one goal: to get you to install a weapon of digital harm. So it's time we talked about malware. Malware is really just the catch-all term for any piece of software that's been built to cause damage. The why behind it is usually pretty simple. It's either to make money for the attacker, or in some cases, to gain an intelligence advantage against a person, a company, or even an entire country. Now, you hear the terms virus and worm thrown around all the time, and they might seem like the same thing, but there's actually a huge difference. A virus needs you. It needs a host. You have to click on the infected file or run the bad program to set it off. A worm, on the other hand, is a whole other beast. It's totally self-sufficient. Once it gets onto a network, it can copy itself and spread from computer to computer, all on its own, no human help required. Imagine for a second you turn on your computer and this is the message you see. This is the calling card of ransomware. It is a particularly nasty kind of malware that locks up all of your files, your photos, your documents, everything, and basically holds them hostage until you pay a ransom, usually in cryptocurrency. And then you've got spyware. Think of this as a digital eavesdropper. It's designed to hide out on your device and just secretly collect your information. And we're talking about private emails, your text messages, maybe even voice recordings, and then it sells that data to someone else, all without you ever knowing it was there. So, we've looked at how they trick people and how they infect individual devices. But now, let's kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture, at the attacks that are designed to take down entire systems and organizations. And these can be incredibly sophisticated. A supply chain attack, for example, infects software or hardware right at the source, so it's already compromised before you even get it. Then there are password attacks that just use raw computing power to guess and guess and guess until they get in. And physical attacks can be something as simple as a malicious charging cable that quietly steals data from your phone while it's powering up. So all of this begs a really big question. Who is actually doing all this? Why? Let's talk a little bit about a hacker's motivation and try to figure out who is behind the screen. It's really important to realize that the word hacker isn't a one-size-fits-all term. We usually think of the malicious, unauthorized kind, right? But there are also ethical hackers, the good guys, who are actually hired by companies to find their security holes before the bad guys can. And you've also got this middle ground of researchers who find flaws but don't exploit them. But when we do focus on those malicious actors, even they have very different goals. You've got advanced persistent threats, or APTs. These are often groups backed by governments, targeting other governments for espionage. Then you have insiders, actual employees who abuse their access for personal gain. And then there are hacktivists who are driven by a political agenda, using their skills to push for social change. All right, let's bring this all the way back to where we started. We've seen the different attacks, we've seen the attackers, but let's really dig into why those social engineering cons work so well. And it all comes down to psychology.
See, social engineers basically have a playbook, and it's built on these 6 psychological triggers. They take advantage of our natural respect for authority by pretending to be a boss. They create a fake sense of urgency to make us panic and act without thinking. They'll use intimidation, or they'll use consensus, that idea that, well, everyone else is doing it, to pressure us. It's all about exploiting these little psychological shortcuts that we all have.
And this quote from our source material just nails it. Human error is usually a result of trusting someone without question. It's that natural human impulse to trust. That's exactly what these attackers are banking on. So you can have the best firewalls, the most expensive security software in the entire world, but at the end of the day, the #1 vulnerability in any system, it's often just human nature itself. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If the most effective hackers, the best ones, are the ones who exploit our own human nature against us, does that mean our best defense isn't just better technology, but maybe a better understanding of ourselves?